think you'll all want to see this.
How did you get that? Oh my God, this is impossible!
We did it. Yes, we did. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Grandma.
My dad didn't lower his voice when he said it. He slid the envelope across the table like it was a trophy, like he was doing me a favor, and looked me dead in the eyes and said, "We gave your wedding fund to your sister. She deserves a real wedding." The room went completely still. My mom nodded. My sister smiled. And I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. I just turned and looked at my fiancé, and when he slowly pushed back his chair, pulled out his phone and said, "Should I go ahead and show them what I do for a living?" That smile on my sister's face disappeared. Instantly, like someone cut the power. But here's what nobody at that table knew yet. That dinner wasn't the beginning. It wasn't even close. I grew up in a home where love had a spotlight. And somehow that spotlight never stayed on me for long. My parents believed in achievement the way some families believe in religion. Measured, displayed, worshipped. The dining room walls were basically a museum dedicated to my sister. Her debate trophies, her college acceptance letters, her first promotion photo in a sleek silver frame. My memories lived in the shadows between those frames, quiet, unnoticed. I learned early how to move through that house without expecting much. I kept my head down, built a small career as a freelance designer, and taught myself not to notice how every single family conversation found its way back to her, the daughter who made them proud. It wasn't jealousy. I want to be really clear about that. It was the specific, quiet ache of being half invisible in the house that raised you. The only person who ever fully saw me was the woman who lived directly across the hall from my childhood bedroom, my grandmother. She used to press warm cookies into my hands and whisper, "The sweetness is to balance things out, because the world isn't always fair. Sweetheart." She brought softness into a life that often felt like sandpaper. My fiancé, I'll call him Liam, met my grandmother before he met anyone else in my family. He showed up that first day in a simple sweater and worn jeans, with a kindness in his eyes that my grandmother recognized immediately. They sat and talked for over an hour, just the two of them. When he finally left, she grabbed my arm and whispered, "He's steadier than he looks, Anna. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." She was right. Liam never tried to impress anyone. He just showed up with this quiet, grounded strength that I hadn't even realized I was searching for my whole life. My parents saw none of it. To them, his simplicity meant something was missing. They asked vague questions about his job, the kind of questions you ask when you've already decided the answer. Doesn't matter. When he didn't go into detail, they wrote their own story. No ambition. Not on their level, not good enough. They never once asked what level I wanted to be on. As wedding season approached, the tension in our family got thicker every single week. My sister could barely contain her excitement. Venues, menus, deposits already paid. My parents leaned into every word she said with the warm, glowing approval I had spent years quietly searching for. I stood at the edges of those conversations, hands folded in my lap, pretending the knot in my stomach was just stress. My grandmother noticed. Of course she did. One afternoon, while she was pruning roses in her little garden, she looked up and said, "Sometimes the loudest rooms hold the least truth." I didn't fully understand it then, but I was about to. Everything, every year of being overlooked, every dinner where I didn't quite belong, every crack in our family, it all led to that Sunday dinner. The night my fiancé stood up and the truth finally stepped into the light. My dad slid that envelope across the table without lowering his voice, without hesitation, without even a flicker of guilt. "We gave your wedding fund to your sister. She deserves a real wedding." My mother nodded along like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. My sister smiled. Weeks passed after that dinner, and every single conversation in my family circled back to her wedding. The venue tours, the dress fittings, the deposits. My mother repeated the phrase, "a real wedding," so many times it started to feel like a verdict carved in stone. I tried to let it roll off me. I really did. My dad wasn't helping. He'd look at Liam with this polite smile, The kind people wear when they think they're being generous. And say things like, stability is important. You two should think carefully before making commitments you can't sustain. It sounded like advice, but the message was loud and clear. He didn't believe in us. He didn't believe in me. Then came the moment that changed everything. My grandmother had been invited, or so we all believed, on a short family celebration trip. That morning, she dressed carefully, smoothed her blouse, and showed up to the airport with a quiet hope that absolutely broke my heart. At the check-in counter, the airline employee frowned, typed a few times, and said, "I'm not finding any reservation under that name." My parents exchanged a look. Just 1 second. But it said everything. My sister stared at her phone. My grandmother's hand trembled slightly as she adjusted the strap on her bag. "Maybe it's a mistake," she whispered. It wasn't a mistake. There had never been a reservation. She was never part of the plan. Humiliation feels different when it happens to someone you love. It's heavier, more personal. I felt it like a physical weight pressing down on my chest. My parents offered excuses, mix-ups, miscommunications, oversights. But none of those words reached her eyes. She simply nodded, thanked the airline employee, and stepped aside. With more dignity than any apology could ever deserve, I stood next to her in silence. And I looked at Liam. The airport noise faded into background static. Something shifted in his expression, not rage. Something quieter and far more dangerous. Resolved clarity. In that moment, I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. My grandmother didn't say a word on the drive back. She sat perfectly upright, hands folded in her lap, watching the city pass outside the window. When we pulled up to her house, she thanked us with a gentle smile, the kind of smile that broke something in me. Inside, the house smelled like lavender and old books. She walked straight to the back door and stepped out onto her small terrace. I watched her from the doorway as she knelt among her roses, touching each stem like she was apologizing for having left them, even for just one morning. Finally, without turning around, she said quietly, "They didn't forget me, Anna. They decided I wasn't necessary." I sat down beside her in the dirt. I didn't defend anyone. There was nothing left to defend. That night, I opened my laptop. Someone had to protect her, even if that someone had never been me before. The next morning, Liam and I met with a specialist in elder protection law. She listened to everything without flinching. The airport, the funds, the years of financial decisions made around my grandmother, without her knowledge or consent. When we walked out of her office, the path forward was clear. When my family landed back from their trip, Liam and I were waiting in the arrivals hall, with an attorney who was holding a very thick folder. My mother slowed her steps when she saw us. "Anna, what are you doing here?" My grandmother stepped out from behind us. She had insisted on coming. Not out of anger, but because, for the first time, she wanted her voice to actually count. The attorney spoke calmly. "I'm here representing your mother. We need to discuss the unauthorized use of her assets and the incident at the airport." My father went pale. My grandmother said softly, "The incident where you left me at the airport without a ticket." The silence was heavy enough to feel. My sister let out a nervous laugh. "That was just a mistake." "No," my grandmother said, still calm. "You never explained anything. You just made it small." The attorney handed my father an envelope. Bank statements. Marked withdrawals. An official summons to mediation. With every page he turned, his expression got harder to read. "What is this supposed to mean?" my sister demanded. "It means," I said quietly, "that she will never be overlooked again." My father turned to me with cold eyes. "So this was your idea?" "No," I said. "This is the result of your choices." My sister turned on Liam with a sharp laugh. "You're acting like some kind of hero. We don't even know what you do." Liam exhaled slowly, calm, completely unbothered. "You're right. I never told you." He took out his phone, opened a page, and held it toward them. My sister leaned in, and the color drained from her face. "You run that?" Liam nodded once. My father stared. "But you said you work in tech." "I do," Liam said quietly. "Just not in the way you assumed." My mother looked at him, really looked at him. maybe for the first time, and asked why he never said anything sooner. Because disrespect doesn't get excused by a job title, he answered. The mediation happened 6 weeks later. Every cent of my grandmother's money was returned, court-monitored, documented final. She didn't change her will out of revenge. She changed it to protect her own peace. After everything settled, she moved into a small house near a garden. Center. Roses. Hydrangeas. Fresh. Herbs along the front walkway. She looked lighter than I had seen her in years. Like she had finally stopped making herself small to keep the family comfortable. Something shifted in me, too. I started a community program to help elderly people find their voice in situations exactly like hers. To help them understand they have rights, that their dignity isn't negotiable. And every time I visit my grandmother and watch her in that garden, unhurried, unbothered, finally at peace, I ask myself the same thing I'm asking you right now. Have you ever had to protect someone from their own family? Because here's what I learned through all of this. Real love doesn't ask you to stay silent, and family isn't defined by a last name. It's defined by the people who show up, when it's inconvenient, when it's uncomfortable, when nobody else will. If this story hit close to home, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me, where are you watching from? And if you've ever had to stand up for someone your family overlooked, share your story below. You might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you're new here, subscribe. Every week I share stories about family, loyalty, and the moments that quietly define who we really are. I'll see you in the next one.